Good Monday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now, tracking a severe thunderstorm warning for the St. Augustine area, portions of St. Johns County until 3 p.m. It's moving right in there, so make sure you're inside and away from windows here in this area right now. I know there's a lot of lightning and quite a bit of a wind signature here, right just west there of Roy, the beach part of the Volano Beach area. You see this brighter yellow on our velocity mode just west there of US 1. We're seeing some winds here on velocity getting up there a good bit, probably about 50 miles an hour or so on this. So that's pretty strong. Could be even closer to 60 at the surface, not out of the question. So take this seriously. I know this is a pretty nasty storm. Again, severe thunderstorm warning for St. Johns County until 3 p.m. here. Just make sure you're inside. We have a lot of lightning in some of these storms across the area. This cloud to ground strikes can be very dangerous. And, we're just getting these storms now back after having a little bit less covered up lately. And we had all that heat. And now all that available energy is there for these storms to, maybe take advantage of here as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things. I'm riding the view, you see some lightning toward, especially Putnam County as well. That looks pretty strong over there. But with St. Johns County here this morning at 3 o'clock, severe thunderstorm located over Volano Beach or near St. Augustine. We're talking about 60-mile-an-hour wind gust possibility. St. Augustine Beach, South Ponte Vedra, as well as Crescent Beach, St. Augustine Shores, Butler Beach, Volano Beach, St. Augustine South, Anastasia, and DuPont Center. So, again, make sure you take this seriously here as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things. The instability is just off the charts here. I know tomorrow we'll have more coverage of storms, so we have a lot of instability today. I mean, these dark purples here, you rarely see this. This is over 5,000 joules per kilogram of surface-based Kate that we're talking about with that dark purple. You don't always get that around, but we've had this be so hot lately. And now the atmosphere, with the moisture coming in, is just, ready to kind of take advantage here of the trigger, in terms of just what's going on here. With all that moisture coming on in here and mixing with the heating and the light here. So, again, tracking this very carefully. Had a gust there recently to about 41 miles an hour, Volano Beach area, 2 miles northwest, St. Augustine, Northeast Florida Regional Airport at 26 past the hour. So, definitely could get stronger winds than that. Though right into town there, tourists in town, just see the locals out in the valley, and this wind coming right now into St. Augustine. As we get down to street level mapping here, you can see that we're really getting that wind right on in here. Winds to about 50 on this, and then you see St. Augustine, the actual name, where we have even more population. If you see lightning, we already had that problem there, where the person really was severely injured by lightning just a little over a week ago on the St. Augustine pier there at the beach. And then we had a tragedy a little longer than that ago with lightning, toward Waycross area, Weirdboro and Ware County, where 2 young people lost their lives. So whenever thunder roars, please try to get indoors. I know it's hard sometimes. Your, busy activities, that you have there in your, daily life here, all those activities, you're so busy and the like. But again, just got to be very mindful of that electrical energy around. You got to be very mindful here of the energy here as we're down with things, that regard, and just what's available here for the storms to take advantage of. So, let me go ahead and go to Putnam County real quick. Not a warning there, but it may be getting pretty close. We're seeing winds to about maybe 30, 35 in velocity, advisories for 40. It looks more impressive on reflectivity than it does on velocity, so that's good at least, because this kind of is a better indicator of severity in the wind mode than maybe radar is a lot of times, with the reflectivity. So maybe not quite as strong, in that it's, it is strong technically with lightning, with the gusty winds, but not to reach into severe characteristic. That is a distinction that is important. Strong can still be very dangerous. Even just a thunderstorm with one strike can be deadly, cloud to ground, but more likely, the wind attributes, would be more dangerous here when the velocity presentation shows brighter colors indicating stronger winds. So again, just trying to keep you up to date. Just trying to give you the very latest on what's going on here right now at 2:39 on this Monday. Again, it's all about protecting you, your friends, and your family here. That's what it's all about here on Clouds Weather. So again, we're always, giving you the latest whenever there's stuff in the 62 county area and the like here. We're on national, storylines here as needed as well. We are on when we have like tornado warning storms anytime within the 62 counties. And we're on for a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings, flash flood warnings here. But if we're not on, we're posting about it. Just kind of have to play it by ear here as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things, based on what I'm seeing and the overall characteristics, if it's enough for me to really have to be, on talking about it or not, because we get so much of this action this time of year. So that's something to bear in mind for sure. So, again, I'm just trying to keep you guys up to date on what's going on here. But again, we're live with you right now. We're just, watching these storms, and tomorrow we're going to have even more coverage of the storms here in terms of the geography. So that's something to bear in mind for sure as we go ahead and let's see here. We're going to jump back over to velocity on tight here, right on the east side of, St. Augustine, really. Right there, the coastal area, getting down the beach. We're going to have some really strong wind. Going to be really blowing those beach umbrellas around. This could be dangerous, not just that, but the lightning, obviously. That can really be deadly. Beach umbrellas and, isolated cage can cause, injury, though, if they really get blown around in the wrong way. So you got to bear that in mind, too. Just trying to keep you updated on all facets here of the situation. I know even though we have the warning down south right now, our area here today, our dark green, is actually indicative of a risk a little bit further up toward the north here. In theory, it'd be a little bit worse. So we'll see. It doesn't always work out like that in the summertime period, but that is a possibility. So let me go ahead and zoom back out a little bit more. You can see that dark green. That is a risk here for wind more than anything as we're looking and as we're tracking. Again, these energy numbers, you don't see this very often. This dark purple here, indicative of over 5,000 joules per kilogram of energy. We don't have too much Super Composite. There's a little out toward the Gulf Coast there and, the Big Bend. But, that, in theory, if we had that overlapping a little bit more, we'd have a better chance of rotation. We're going to get pretty low unless we get boundaries interacting. Shouldn't we see that today, but we'll be watching, we'll be tracking, obviously, and we have a marginal risk tomorrow as well as the last check. Let me make sure they haven't done any type of upgrade on that here real quick. Bear with me. Let me go ahead and try to see what's going on with all that here in toward the weather center. Again, I'm just going to see if they've upgraded that for tomorrow. I know there's a slight risk nationally, but, marginal for South Georgia there. It's pretty much South Georgia as I look behind the scenes. But let's go ahead and pull up some of the model guidance here right now. Some of the model guidance. We're going to look here at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. It's been struggling. We weren't really expecting the storms, that we had this morning around Gainesville, for instance. They got a good bit of rain this morning, Alachua County. So the models have been kind of, HRRR, what we use here generally with high res, has not really handled us great. You can see all the rain we've gotten there. That road to Cedar Key, 3-4 inches last 12 hours. But as we look current here, you don't see it as much there. But let's get back to the modeling, though. I mean, at 3 o'clock, it says there's nothing here until we have a storm that's severe. So, yeah, I don't know. You got to kind of take these models, maybe, as something that is sometimes possibly what's going to happen or close to it, but sometimes not so much. So that's 3, 4. I mean, I don't know if I should even say this. It's not picking up on anything right, hardly. So, yeah. So we're just going to go ahead and move away from that. We're kind of we knew there would be a chance of the storms today. Said that last week because of all the moisture around. Just, geographic areas correlating to the times. That's really hard to figure out. It's just the nature of things sometimes as we're looking here It's very hot with the moisture coming in, precipitate water values going up. You see 92 Gainesville, 97 Jacksonville International Airport, 95 Tallahassee, 95 Albany. We're down to 78 here used to start because we did have some rain earlier on. A little over 1/10 of an inch there on the rain gauge. But let me go ahead and I'm gonna go to the longer, broader range models here. Let me go ahead and go to the DFS. So let's see, because it's not pinpointing things quite right here on the broad scale. Even that wasn't showing it quite right here. But as you look, as we get into tomorrow, the chance of rain will go up. As you see here, later tomorrow, more coverage than today. And then this gets into Wednesday. Again, more coverage here on Wednesday as well, compared to at least today. So, as we get into Thursday, not showing it quite as much here, except maybe over Tallahassee, but I'll progress it a little bit further here. You start to see it later on, but we're going to have quite a bit of moisture around because we've kind of had some untapped potential here lately. And unfortunately now, in terms of the storm aspect, it's going to get tapped into here. We do need rain, though. We just don't want lightning, just don't want severe weather. Had some little wildfires pop up, so we still do need the rain. But it's a situation here where you don't want too much too quick. You don't want the severe weather that goes along with it. But some areas definitely still need some rain here. As it's still been a little bit, in some ways, especially as we look back toward this weekend, it was pretty dry compared to what it can be this time of year. Hot. We get in the upper 90s there on that thermometer. So I know the heat index, though, some of these values are extraordinary. We've had heat advisories around here lately, 109. Heat index right now toward Gainesville. That's, after they had the rain earlier, but that makes it humid as well. But very high heat index values here as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things here with the meteorology. Those definitely are something to note. So, again, it's something to kind of give you guys the very latest on here for sure. As we're watching things under the heat advisory for almost all of our counties, except for a few in southwest Georgia. Haven't went to an excessive heat warning, but you still gotta make sure when you don't have the storms around, you're not going in because of lightning and the like, and it's not cooled off as much because of the stormy weather. You gotta really be careful. Our heat index used to start 84 right now, so we're okay with that. It's actually not, the worst weather right now here if you're not, hearing that thunder too much. But just stay hydrated when you have a heat advisory in play. In fact, let me switch to some other sources here. Storm in Putnam, by the way, is strengthening. And storm in St. John's is weakening some. I was going to try to put up our heat advisory on another source, but, well, just kind of take my word for it. That is for most of the area. As we're looking here, as we're tracking things, just trying to give you guys the very latest on exactly what's going on here as the situation does progress, obviously. As the situation does progress, we're just trying to keep you guys up to date here on the ongoing scenarios. So, just going through some information here behind the scenes. Just trying to see here what we're doing with. So you want to stay hydrated with a heat advisory, limit strenuous, outdoor activities if you can. If you have AC, use it, as fans may not be good enough, and then wear lightweight and light colored clothing if possible. So that's kind of the storyline there. As we're looking here, as we're tracking things. Yeah, that accident in Putnam's looking like it's getting a little bit stronger. Some other mode here as well. St. John's is still nasty, still could be dangerous, but weakening a bit. As we kind of switch here on our systems. Moving into Bostwick, a little bit of a hook, but I don't see much rotation, honestly, on velocity. But around Bostwick, it's going to get pretty nasty. There in Putnam County, St. Johns County, St. Augustine, it is nasty now. It's still pretty nasty. Storm could still be causing damage around St. Augustine, even if it doesn't look quite as nasty as it did just a little while ago. So, something to bear in mind. I'm going to check the power outage numbers here. See, Alachua County almost 2,000 customers in the dark, but St. John not really seeing anything as of yet. But sometimes it takes time to get these numbers to catch up here, you know, in the overall grand scheme of things here. So as we're tracking things, these numbers, you know, it's a situation here where you just gotta kind of play it by ear. You know, you just gotta kind of play it by ear here, because it takes a little bit for the power of the numbers to come on in into reporting. Okay, warning for Putnam, Clay, and St. John now at 3:30. We're gonna go ahead and kind of switch some things up here. That's the one that really started to look like it was strengthening around Bostwick there. Okay, let's see what they're saying with the statement. So 2:48 it came out. Southwestern St. John's, northeastern Putnam, east central Clay until 3:30. At 2:48 a severe thunderstorm was located over Bostwick or 10 miles north of Palatka, moving southeast at 15 miles an hour. Palatka, Hastings, East Palatka, Bostwick, Federal Point, Orange Mills, Barden, as well as San Mateo and Spud. So again, just trying to give you guys the very latest here. Again, 60-mile-an-hour winds, southwestern St. Johns County, northeastern Putnam, and east central Clay until 3:30. Palatka, Hastings, East Palatka, Bostwick, Federal Point, Orange Mills, Barden, as well as San Mateo and Spud. So again, just trying to give you guys the very latest on the inclement weather around. There's no tornado possible tag on this of this point, but they're, you know, on reflectivity, some weak rotation, on velocity, not so much. Not really seeing much rotation on that there. But I mean, you can't theoretically, you know, in theory, run a brief funnel cloud, something like that. But I'm gonna go ahead and broaden the view here. Go to Georgia. We have some strong storm action now west of Nahunta. And, you know, west of Winnaker. We'll watch that. See if that gets to a warning right now. It got to about 40 there. Some more storms further up in Georgia on this radar beam. But I know it's a situation here where we're going to be watching. We had the storms around Bradford earlier, so we have kind of helped, you know, for a little bit at least to kind of keep the strongest action from happening. Still some dangerous lightning was around earlier. Still hear some rumbles of thunder from time to time. But kind of help stabilize the atmosphere, you know, and the weather in a localized area. So again, just trying to keep you guys up to date here on what's going on. Just trying to keep you guys up to date on the situation here as we're looking around St. Augustine and St. Johns County. You know, in Putnam County, we do have around Bostwick again. That looks like it's a little bit, you know, on the uptick there. At least it has been. St. Augustine, in theory, is kind of weakening, but they look about the same. This probably looks a little stronger now. CDR measures upscale growth. We have some of that. I'll back this up. Had more of that a few minutes ago in there for sure, though. Let me see if we have any of that in Georgia. Yeah, there's some of that red, which is indicative of more upscale growth with the overall meteorological pixels there, the DVZ values increasing. So again, just trying to give you guys the very latest here on what's going on. We have 2 severe thunderstorm warnings right now. 2:53 on this Monday, on this July 21st, 2025. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center live on the different platforms. We have some lightning in Alachua County right now. That's the storyline there, as we try to give you guys the very latest on what's going on. So again, just trying to keep you guys up to date here on the meteorological scenario. It's all about protecting you, your friends, and your family here. Don't see any questions or comments right now, but I appreciate everybody tuning in and trusting me as we look at these storms here on Bostwick there in Putnam County, for instance. Looking pretty nasty there, and eventually moving toward Palatka there, in a more populated area there, you know, on State Road 100. So again, going to be watching that area there for sure, as we're trying to give you the very latest there, as we're just tracking things here, as we're monitoring things, and the like. So let me go ahead and keep giving you guys the very latest. Let me keep checking some information here. I gotta be careful on these roads here during the storm action. Obviously, I know we're watching things here. Palatka along east of US 17 over eastern Putnam into about Hastings is what the Weather Service is saying here. So we're watching that very carefully. Trying to keep you guys safe. Okay, so this warning's going away. To the east now, just went away. I know, weekend below severe limit, so it can expire at 3, but still pretty nasty. The Putnam action strengthening, I know, not necessarily seeing hail around Stark earlier, but when I was out and about, I did have some very big raindrops, that was for sure, but this is indicative here of at least a little bit of hail on this. The warning not seeing that so much, but this algorithm here, this algorithmic signature, you can see north of Bostwick there, indicating a little over an inch size hail. Probably didn't, actually correlate to the surface, but we're probably seeing a situation here where we could have hail about 3/4 of an inch in diameter there, moving in the Bostwick community right now, which will be under severe limits, but still could be a little bit of a nuisance there. Bristol severe criteria for hail is an inch. It changed that years ago. It used to be 3/4, but a little too many warnings, kind of just watering things down too much. The Weather Service, a good while ago, probably 15 years ago, give or take, it changed it to go to an inch. The warning not for the hail, though, is for wind, and that could mean, 60-mile-an-hour gust here with this convection. So again, I'm just going to continue to give you guys the very latest here on what's going on. Let's go to the infrared satellite here. I'm going to pull that up. You see it's running a little behind, actually. Let me see if I can get a closer in view. Maybe I'll get a better update, maybe. No, not really, but a little bit visible. You can see how it's cloudy, a lot of the area, but some areas still there's breaks in the clouds, allowing things to destabilize even some more. So just gotta continue to watch that here. Gotta continue to track that here, obviously, as we're tracking things, as we're monitoring things. So, again, I'm just checking some of the different information. Just going through some of the different meso data points as we continue to give you the latest here in the Weather Center. Let me keep checking things. Keep on monitoring. Trying to keep you informed. We're at 2:57 on the clock. I'm just trying to keep you up to date on what's going on. So important to stay on top of things in these type of adverse situations. We're trying to be here for you. That electrical energy can be so dangerous, obviously. I'm just going through everything here. Let me put the radar back on. Zoom back in a little, but rotation tracker on. Some weak rotation in here toward the St. Johns River at times. Ooh, uh-oh. Don't like that. This is what can cause a quick spin up sometimes, guys. We're seeing some green and red just all of a sudden right near the river. Gotta be kind of careful here. We haven't really had one of these here lately. We could. I mean, we get these a lot of summer. I don't remember too much of it this summer so far, but we sometimes get these boundary interactions. Sometimes you get some twisting here, right? Especially right near the river, and we could get some type of water spout, which could end up, getting near shore, onshore, and that threat could prompt a tornado warning if we're not careful here, guys. This is very quickly developing. This is how it is. I mean, one scan ago, not so much, and now we're getting some of that green and the red here. I know it may be could be a little bit of interference, but then there's a boundary there. If so, that merger could cause some twisting, and that could ultimately get us a tornado warning if we're not careful. Need to be on alert here, right here between Bostwick and Armstrong, just north of Hastings. We could get something along the St. John's, right near County Road 13. Be ready here for something to evolve. Not saying it will, because you may want to wait another scan early to determine if you need a tornado warning, because this could just kind of fade real quick. But we need to be kind of careful here as we're tracking things here meteorologically. So again, we're here for you guys this afternoon. The moment is 2:59. We're watching the situation very carefully here in toward the weather center. So again, you see a bunch of lighting like Alachua County, northern Bradford, southeastern Baker, northwestern Clay, a little bit of southern Duval there in St. John's, but in Putnam is where we have some weak rotation on the Doppler algorithms. That's, gotta watch that. To the north here, Brantley County, some, wind enhancement, no warnings up there, but definitely could have some gusty winds. Got some stuff in central Georgia, not warned there, but definitely you gotta be kind of careful there near I-16. And then northwest of Atlanta, severe thunderstorm warning up that way. So, as we look back here, we have an advisory now for this stuff here from north of Lodi to about Green Cove. It's moving southeast at 25 miles an hour. Flumen Island, Dotlers Inlet, Camp Blanding. You got some lightning, you got some heavy rain. So gotta be kind of careful. But then down here, we gotta be watching, we gotta be tracking here, obviously. Gotta be giving you guys the very latest here on what's going on. Let me check another view, because we got our radars, they're all working around here, it seems, right now. The ones for our area. Even Moody's showing some weak rotation, but it's more the algorithm signature there versus the, the actual. And that looks like something kind of trying to merge in there, but it's along the boundary, and that's the thing. That sometimes when you have the wind switch direction, especially along the river like that, that can be a problem, because it'd be a little bit easier maybe, for something to kind of come on down there in that type of environment. But the next scan, it could completely fade. That's just how this is sometimes this time of year. Let's see if we can get a traffic cam from the interstate. It might be kind of a long shot here. Might be kind of a long shot as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things, but I'm going to try to go ahead and give you a perspective here. And we'll try to look to see if we can see the river. Bear with me. To look pretty far, but at least worth a try. Well, we'll just say some semi-dark clouds here from I-95. We'll pull this on in mile marker 306.9, pretty far away, but not necessarily pointing the right direction, because this is a north to south interstate, so it's either pointing, north or south here on this, not, off toward the west necessarily. But as we're looking at things here, as we're tracking them, we're going to go ahead and keep watching. Let me just check velocity. We did get a new scan. Well, that looks worse. I mean, I was hoping it was just an anomaly. I'm not so sure now. This may be getting pretty close to tornado warning territory right there. St. John's, Putnam County line along the St. John's River. I know when it's over a river, it's not a tornado, it's a water spout, sure. But the thing is, this can come right on shore very quickly. If you're far enough on the radar away from it, you don't really know how close, something, maybe actually is. If the pixels are a little displaced, it might actually be overland. It might actually be a tornado if you have that. So we need to be real alert here. We need to be alert here that this could get a tornado warning. Gonna check some more things here, because if we get a tornado warning, I'm sure more folks will be joining us here. Obviously, in toward the weather center. So I need you guys just to remain alert. I'm just gonna make sure we don't have any questions here on the different platforms. We're honestly really overdue for one of these. So just be alert here. We could get something. We could get something down there. Be ready to take those tornado precautions. Down there to St. John's Putnam line. I mean, if you see something or if you hear that freight train noise, I would say you'd go ahead and do it. And be inside and away from windows anyway. Just checking some information. I'll check the Melbourne view. Where that radar had lightning problems recently. Little weak rotation there. We just got an update, so let me see what they're saying. If they've added the tornado tag or not. They didn't go with the tornado warning, but let's see if they've added a rotational tag. Yeah, they did add a rotational tag. They're seeing what I'm seeing, but I don't think there's quite enough. They don't think a tornado is maybe, you know, something that is a guarantee or more likely. They still say it's less likely, but possible now by, you know, issuing the update here to the warning with the Tor possible tag now. They see the rotation, but they don't think it's quite enough for a tornado, but they're saying at 303 severe thunderstorm was located near Federal Point or near Hastings, within southeast at 15 miles an hour. Palatka, Hastings, East Palatka, Bostwick, Federal Point, Orange Mills, and Spuds under this. But now the thing is, they added it tornado possible, guys. So that's something we don't, you know, it's kind of hard to quantify. But those are meteorologists I did kind of know when they add this, you got to really be ready for that, you know, threshold to be met. Then we get a red box, and we get a tornado warning, and you really got to get in that, you know, closet there to take those precautions. It's right over a river, too, maybe. Again, maybe they're just kind of hoping it breaks up before it gets over land. Because if it does, then, you know, it's not a tornado. That actually looks pretty marshy out there. But just down here, that's not. So that's the thing. You gotta be kind of careful here. You gotta be kind of careful. Get the tornado vortex signature there now. As we're continuing to watch, continuing to track. We're just continuing to give you guys the latest here. That weak rotation on the Doppler. I mean, it's almost, I would say, you know, not just weak at this point. Maybe mid-grade. It's on the borderline of strong, which then that would give you a tornado warning. But it's being over the river, being in the marshy areas, maybe kind of limiting them wanting to issue this. I mean, over here, there's stuff, but right here, you know, people might not really, you know, be impacting. It might break up, but it's matching up. It's, you know, the reflectivity is matching up there with the velocity. So, gotta be ready here on this. I'm gonna pull it up on another source. I want to see the tornado possible tag. I don't normally do this, but I think it's important just to kind of, you know, I mean, this is from their official statement here, so I want everybody to kind of see what I'm seeing here. I'm not trying to overhype this. This is, you know, as we're looking at the situation. Okay, so this is the statement. As we look here, you see all the information, but they added in the bottom of this. This is something that they add when it's close to maybe needing a tornado warning here. They added tornado possible here with this statement. So when it's that, you know, type of scenario where it's borderline, but there's maybe not quite enough confidence for a tornado warning, they add that type of language in here in the bottom of this, you know, so they're letting the media partners know, emergency management partners know that they're close to having to issue something, but it may not need it, but it's right on the borderline here of needing a tornado warning, but they're not quite enough confidence to issue one here at this point in time. So again, that's kind of the storyline there. You know, we just want to kind of say that here as we're looking at 304 updated. It's 308 right now. I go to previous bulletins, which as of 254, you see they got rid of St. John's. But let me go ahead and I don't guess I can get to it from here maybe. I don't normally say this live on the air, but my point is, like, 241. This was the St. John's one, and see, they didn't have tornado possible with this, so none of the others have had that today as far as I've seen. So that's kind of the storyline there as we're tracking things with the situation. So again, that's kind of some storyline data. Still some rotation at 306 radar scan, but that's also Marcy area, which that may be why they don't want to issue this. They're saying, well, not really anybody out here. We hate to, kind of get everybody on the air on TV. We're on digital. Some other folks and media have been on digital. But, everybody be jumping on TV. There's a tornado warning. If there's nobody out here, then maybe it's, not something that, if it's not enough confidence, maybe they won't issue. But you see some stuff right out there. I mean, it's a tricky situation because this could break up before it reaches land or reaches an area where there is population. So again, we're just looking at the different things here. You see some green, that's wind going toward the Jackson River, red wind's going away. But again, that's pretty marshy looking. So that's the St. John side. This is the Putnam side here. And we're looking. Rotation tracker, I mean, goodness, it has been picking it up. Not just me, I mean, for a little bit it was off the charts there pretty much. Technically not quite, because 20, over 20 is, and it's at 18, but that's really strong for our area right now. Rotation's about 14, which these numbers don't mean much to you guys, I know, but it just shows overall strength from 1 to 20. Sometimes they can get it, where we're just in a situation where it's just really, really strong, and sometimes pretty weak, but that's still pretty strong rotation there. That's what that ridge indicating, the twisting of the winds. Again, this could be in a very rural area, though. That's, not enough confidence, maybe a little bit away from the radar, not enough for the tornado warning, but there's, again, that tornado possible tag I showed you guys in the official update from 304 of the National Weather Service in Jacksonville. So, again, that's kind of the storyline here with this. Again, this is north of Hastings. This right now they're in a pretty rural area where the rotation is, but it doesn't mean the storm is in a rural area. The storm is impacting a lot of folks, but the little segment of it that's been spinning, here recently is not impacting, a lot of folks at the spin area. Some wind reports, St. Augustine area, we had gusts earlier on, 43. Weatherstem, St. Augustine, we had 31 past there, a gust of 44 there. And that was a little bit further north. I'll put a marker on here for it. And we had it 26 past. We already cut about it, but 41. So a lot of those have not quite been severe, but they've still been pretty nasty. Pretty nasty tropical storm force, low tropical storm force level gusts. So that's kind of the storyline there. As we're tracking things here in toward the weather center. So again, just trying to give you guys the latest on what's going on here, on what we're tracking, checking some of my other details, with the data coming in. I know we did have a little bit of an uptick in Alachua County power outages. They're down, but look at St. John's, nothing showing there as of now. I wouldn't be surprised if some folks are out, though, but 10 out in terms of small, number of customers in Putnam, 97 in Clay. In terms of power outages, in terms of the customers out, which is, there's a minuscule numbers really, but still noteworthy. And good news here, that rotation, the latest scan is kind of faded. I mean, it's faded a good bit actually. Right. You see the last scan before the current one, you see greens and reds. That indicates some twisting of the winds. Newest scan just came in and it looks pretty much gone. The rotation. So that's how things can happen. If that would have been like that type of spin, and just being by the river probably played a role in it being a little bit worse with this spin with the boundaries already. But if this was like over downtown Jacksonville, I think they would have missed their tornado warning almost, no doubt about it, because it would have, certainly been impacting people. It wouldn't have been a question if it was over maybe the water, not an actual tornado, but a water spout, which is a tornado over water per se. But in that regard, as we're tracking things here. I mean, that's unofficial the way I say that, but my point is that's, when it comes ashore, it's a tornado, as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things. So. But that really faded. The rotation really, really, really faded away there. I don't think they're going to issue now. We've kind of gone past that point. point of issuance. They'll probably change this here soon. Take that tag out of that statement. They might even, let's check the winds in here. They may go ahead. It goes to 330. They may keep it up to 330 without the tag in it, or they may just go ahead and cancel because it's starting to weaken pretty quick here as I'm looking at things and tracking them. But there may be enough wind in here to keep it for a little longer. So some pretty strong winds. Hastings and Armstrong. Make sure no other boundaries kind of come across and start twisting this again. But again, Marineland there. We'll watch that area. Some lightning whenever thunder roars go indoors. You see some lightning in northern Clay, some lightning in South Georgia, same Brantley County and the like. Let me just check here. I'm going to check our correlation coefficient to see if we ever had any type of dropout here on this. Just curious. You saw how things come together with the different winds. Give me a moment here because I got to kind of correlate the pixels. It could be, you know, indication of water being picked up if there was something. I don't necessarily see anything there. Let me see. Let's try that one. It could have been a little something, but it wasn't really what I find. We'd be looking up pretty high up, over 3,000 feet. If this is again right in Duval, it'd be pretty low down. So if it just picked up almost anything, you'd see it. You know, but not so much down here. So as we go ahead and keep looking, got some storms in northern Clay County here now. Lightning moving toward Middleburg there and further into town or away. So north side of Middleburg now there. As we're looking, we take this warning data off. I don't want to confuse anybody. The tips, I should say. Save information, but as we kind of move on in there, you know, storminess up there by the Wawa, I would say, in Middleburg, give or take. In the north side of town. Along State Road 21 there, Blandon Boulevard. Wind's about 40 in that. As we look up toward the north, we're watching. Nothing is overwhelming. And I see the yellow box just went away. Did they cancel this? Let's see. Because the previous scan had the box. It's canceled. Below severe limits now. So we don't have any more warnings left, which is great news. Doesn't mean we won't get more though. So we got to remain alert here for the rapidly changing conditions there. As we're looking as we're tracking things. You see Hastings, Armstrong still could have gusts to about 40 or so. Southern Duval, some lightning there, south of I-10, west of 295 especially. That's where that's concentrated at. Got some lightning in Coffee County, you know, this lightning, you know, just kind of, and the storms will just kind of pop up. So whenever thunder roars, go indoors. Remain alert here, obviously. There's an advisory for this, you know, down toward Hastings and Vermont Heights. Some of this activity at 345. To keep moving the Doppler around. We're going to go ahead and go to the other mode here. Okay, so the temperatures, 80s, few spots, seen some storminess, 70s, you know, more storminess, more rain, 90s in a lot of spots still. So still a lot of untapped potential. The models haven't been handling well the situation. We have a lot of energy, but you still kind of need some trigger to have the moisture though. But the instabilities there are really off the charts a lot of spots. As you saw with all those purples, the dark purple, I'll put it back up one more time. But, you know, not going to correlate exactly those spots where the storms are, but gives you an idea of the potential. A little bit less towards southwest Georgia. Big Bend, but still red is over 3,000 joules per kilogram of energy. You know, that's still a lot. Got to remain alert. Still got a risk up in Georgia. Got to be watching for that. Got a big risk of severe weather today nationally as we're looking toward parts of Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota. A little bit of tornado risk for Billings and then over toward Bismarck and south down into areas there of South Dakota there like Aberdeen. And then you have a hail there. You have your wind. Of course, the wind, we have one down into more parts of our area, but that's not why we had these warnings so far. You just got to remain alert for rapidly changing conditions here this time of year. So, with the warnings gone, we're going to go ahead and wrap it on up. We're going to keep you guys up to date. They'll be back here as conditions warrant. If conditions warrant again today, of course, we'll have, more coverage as needed tomorrow. And then if conditions warrant with the storms tomorrow, high chance of rain tomorrow, even higher than today. And then, of course, we'll have our formal update late tomorrow night. Just be aware of the heat here and, these dangerous hot temperatures and, these high humidity values, the high heat index values, all coming together when you don't have the storminess around especially. So, it can be pretty good outside for a lot of the day, but then sometimes it's just too hot. You get too exhausted. That can be dangerous, and the lightning part, the storm part, obviously dangerous as well. So, there can be good windows to get out and do stuff, but other times not so much. You definitely got to take precautions here as, the conditions warrant. I know we're at 77 degrees right now. You're used to Stark. You're worried of lightning, but, it's not that hot in Stark right now, not storming, but that can change. You know how it is in summertime. So we're going to wrap it. Stay tuned for more updates here as needed. But for now, thanks for tuning in.